Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast. No nonsense talk about what's going on in the South Florida real estate market. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my co-host, the moderator, the gentleman who is a real estate advisor over at Compass Real Estate over at Coconut Grove, where does single-family houses as well as condos. There's no one else but Daniel Hernandez. What's up, Mr. Hernandez?
What's up, Mr. Zalewski? You're back in the office. I'm sorry we're not on site this week, folks. Peter,
Well,
are you happy to be back in the office? We were in a pretty nice setting last week.
It was a nice setting, but I got stuck in the seat with a terrible angle. It put about 300 pounds on me. I was not very happy with that, but let me tell you what. All of my detractors, they loved it because they all felt compelled to go ahead and reach out to me and tell me I ought to start walking longer on my walking tours. And I got one coming in tomorrow, but I'm only doing 4 miles. I ought to be doing 12 miles.
12 miles? Peter, I went on your walking tour in Coral Gables a few weeks ago, and you had me walking for 4 straight hours. I was exhausted. Well, everybody's
That's
listening.
why you're so skinny. That's why you're so skinny in the video, and I'm the complete opposite. Talk about a yin and a yang. And by the way, that developer, Andrew Raskin, he looked pretty svelte, if you will. I'm questioning his battle scars. He was way too pretty to have been drugged through the alley like most of these developers out here in South Florida.
Well, guys, if you didn't tune in last week, go on YouTube, go on Substack, check out our conversation with Andrew Raskin of Meta Development. He's building Opus on 27. He's building Colette on Brickell Avenue. He's got another site that he didn't want to tell us too much about, but we'll keep a finger on that pulse for when that news does come through. But this is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, episode number 41. We are just at the end of February. The U.S. beat the Canadians in the Olympics, and we are still breaking ground and announcing new condominium developments here in Miami. So, what is the format of this show? If you're just joining us for the first time, Peter and I, real estate professionals here in Miami, and we throw topics back and forth. And you're looking at the rundown, which is on the bottom of your screen there, and you're thinking, well, not all of this stuff has to do with real estate, but it does. And so, starting off, first topic, and we've talked about this a few times, and I'm getting better at these rundown titles. I'm at least I'm cackling to myself. UDB. Peter, what does UDB mean? Is that Uber Development Boondoggle? What does that mean? What is the UDB, Peter?
Real simple, the line that's arbitrarily drawn by the government that decides where the alligators, the panthers, and the roseate spoonbills live and where the real estate speculators live. It's a simple line. It's drawn. It's arbitrary. Think gerrymandering, but for development instead of voting. And that's all the UDB is. One side is the Everglades. The other side is basically developable. There's nothing distinguishing about it. There is no landmark. There's no topography. It's a line that's drawn. And what that does is that gives the ability of people who want to donate, so-called donate the politicians, to go ahead and consider moving the UDB. And that's been the battle for so long.
And why is it back in the news today? I'm going to tell everybody. So, just to parrot what Peter said, so the UDB, the Urban Development Boundary, that's what it actually stands for. They started it in 1983, which, in the history of Miami, isn't terribly long ago. If you cross a county line into Broward, they build all the way west, practically into the Everglades. I mean, that's what Weston is. Weston, Swella. So the Miami-Dade Urban Development Boundary, 78 miles long. I looked that one up. And it effectively to protect farmland and Everglades wetlands. And then what it's done is it forces developers to develop within this boundary. Because when you have too much of an urban sprawl and a lack of public transportation, as we do here in Miami-Dade County, well, you get people, if there's no UDB, they'll be commuting 2.5 hours to work. And that doesn't make anybody happy. So it's back in the news because of a joint resolution. I'm sorry, it's not a joint resolution. It's a House bill. The tax thing is a joint resolution, and we'll get back to that in about 10 minutes. But HB 399, filed by Representative David Barrero out there in Hialeah, and it targets the UDB on a few fronts. First off, it orders a state-run study, and not on how well the UDB is necessarily working, but on what would happen if you remove the UDB and similar growth management lines in other counties. And so that sort of framing signals that the end game could be a statewide ban or a preemption on local urban boundaries. And so we're talking about Dade because that's where we are, but there are many, many counties throughout the state, and some of them have UDB or UDB-like protections. And there's a large bill. I don't need you to read through the whole thing, but what it does do effectively. So here, if we want a change in the UDB, what has to happen is a massive study, tons of resources have to be spent, and then there is a vote, and it has to be a supermajority vote, meaning of the county commissioners, there's 13 of them, we need 9 to say, okay, let's do this. There was a vote, and Mayor Daniela Vinkava vetoed it, right? So they can overturn the veto. Or how about we just change the law? So this HB 399, what it would do is effectively remove the supermajority and turn it into a simple majority. 2 votes. That's what that does. It removes 2 votes. So instead of needing 9 votes to change the UDB, you would only need 7. And so what that makes me ask is, well, Peter, how much does it cost to buy 2 votes on the county commission?
That is a great rhetorical question. There's no question about it. Listen, at the end of the day, this comes up every single time we have affordability issues. We go through this all the time. It's part of the traditional cycle. By the time anything changes, the market craps out. Market craps out, and then people start saying, okay, well, now I can go, and I don't need to go farther west. And by the way, if you take a look at the map of Miami-Dade County, take a look at the map of South Florida, there's a lot of, let's call it between I-95 and the Turnpike, there's a lot of land that could effectively be built upon, that could basically be redeveloped. So it's not like we don't have enough land, and a lot of the existing stuff, it's already got the infrastructure. Besides, if global sea level rise is an issue, and I know we can't say climate change in the state of Florida, at least officially, why the hell do you want to reclaim more Everglades, pump water out, dump it somewhere, and hope that it doesn't flood? Why don't you go to the areas up north, let's say in and around Little Haiti, around Lemon City?
Very high ground in
places.
Little Haiti, right?
That's exactly the point. All of that stuff is sitting there and basically not being developed. There was a project called Magic City. That damn thing was promoted how many years ago? It never got built. It never got built. So the moral of the story is there's plenty of land for which to develop upon. Why not just go back and do infill development, fill in all of this land that is sitting there vacant right now? Those are not parks you see when you drive around there. That is not the city going out of its way to provide more public parks for people. Those are development sites, and we're simply not building upon it. Why? Because they keep wanting to go west, and they want to, build next to Mount Trashmore and Homestead and places like that. There's, I think the end of the day, what it comes down to, tract developers, the Lennars of the world. It's easier for them to buy a piece of dirt, go through the whole process, drain the swamp, literally drain the swamp, and then go ahead and build upon it. Why don't they go ahead and create a little niche industry or a little niche boutique business where they go in and they do infill development? It doesn't have the same economies of scale, but I'm very certain that they would be very successful at building that stuff out. And if you don't believe me, get on Miami Avenue, get on Northeast 2nd, get on Northwest 2nd in downtown Miami, and just go north to the Broward County line, and you will see tons and tons and tons of land that can be redeveloped pretty easily, and you wouldn't have to lay down more infrastructure. And you would probably get a boost in property tax values, which means more money in the coffers, unless Governor DeSantis and the legislature take away property tax.
Well, Governor DeSantis doesn't have to vote on that, and we'll get to that in a minute, but or vote or veto or sign it into law. That's a joint resolution that goes straight to referendum. But what I'm thinking, Peter, and I'm thinking about this, as an outside observer, is yes, you can do infill development, but have developers who are pushing, because we know a lot of developers who we've spoken to, and they say building past the UDB is dumb because they recognize, they're locals, they recognize the importance of the wetlands, they recognize the importance of the Everglades, but some developers, whether it's commercial, residential, or industrial, they see it easier to lobby the county to expand the UDB than try to get through the audacious zoning that there is here. right? We talk about zoning. We talk about the DDA, downtown Miami, the Downtown Development Authority, how long it's taken Flagler because of zoning and bureaucracy. So folks see that and they go, well, why the hell would I want to do infill development? Why don't we just move to UDB? We can buy a couple of commissioners. They don't make much money. It probably costs us less than $100,000. Right? I mean, I hate to be cynical, but I mean, that's one way to look at it, right? The other thing.
And that's the way that everybody looks at it. That's the way everybody looks at it. But up to this point, they fought back about it. I mean, you're showing an aerial of the Tri-County area. Zoom out a little bit, Daniel, if you will, and you will see how far west Broward County goes. The best way to observe it is to watch the Weather Channel. I tend to prefer the Spanish language Weather Channel for whatever reason. But if you watch that, you'll see Broward County goes way out, and then Miami-Dade County is really hemmed in. Miami-Dade County has always been, at least in my opinion, much more sensitive to issue, whether it's a community association registry where all condos got to provide their information, make it readily available, and or the ecological side of it. So Broward County's gone the other way. Broward County map, the aerial shows you how they basically didn't give two shits. They took whatever donations or campaign contributions they need, and they moved that damn thing. And, and now they got what they got versus Miami-Dade County. They haven't necessarily done it, at least thus far.
The other thing, and I think this also goes hand in hand with property taxes, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is this is another example of Tallahassee removing power from our local municipalities. They said, you know what? You haven't allowed developers to figure out your whole zoning thing and all your red tape. By the way, we've always had zoning and red tape. This is nothing new. But it's an excuse to pull power back from the municipalities and say, you guys don't have control anymore, and we're just going to push the UDB, and we're not going to allow you to do that. That's what Live Local effectively did, right? It's just yes, another example of that.
But again, though, that mantra seems to be coming from the White House, where basically you got to do what we want, otherwise we're going to penalize you. Whether you are Anthropic or you're anybody else, if you want to play ball, you got to play by our rules. And let's basically have a couple people up in the Capitol, whether it be Tallahassee or Washington, making all the decisions for everybody else. And whatever you guys think, we don't really give two shits. Just make sure you donate the money to us and you listen to what we say and everything's fine. Otherwise, we're going to darken the skies with attorneys or anything else. And that is not the direction that I'm very happy with, at least at this moment in time. But again, everything changes. And remember, if there is a change in governmental leadership and it leans the other way, guess who's going to be bitching and moaning about how this is not right, it's not fair, it's not this, it's not that. There's something called, something related to the filibuster, and there's a certain minimum vote necessary in the Senate. You go ahead, you eliminate that, you make it a simple majority, and it might be good one day, but then the next day, you might actually have the hangover from going out on a bender. And that's effectively what I think is going on right now. I think some of these politicians are really loving the power and they're really pushing it. But just remember, the pendulum always swings. And when it does, it's payback time. And that's not a threat. That's simply the way things work out.
We started the timer a little late. So UDB, Uber development boondoggle, buy, sell, hold. And I guess the question is, does the UDB in its existence make it more difficult to develop here?
I say no. I don't even think the UDB really has that much of an impact. I think this is an issue that massive tract developers like Lennar are raising. Nobody else gives two shits about it for the most part. There's plenty of other space they can go ahead and build. This is only for the biggest of the dogs who need to buy thousands or hundreds of acres. Yeah, some small little developer putting up 50 units, 100 units. It's not going to make a big difference to them. This is, these are the warlords basically who are negotiating this type of stuff. This is not your typical developer who's putting up a tower, at least from my perspective. This is a Wall Street move to try to bolster stock valuations.
I'm selling with you, babe. Two concurrent reds right next to each other to start off BSH number 41. Moving on. We're back in Tallahassee. We've talked about this a lot. Property taxes, Peter, are taxing. It's the worst part of monopoly, I swear. So Ron DeSantis has announced that the Florida House has voted to put on a ballot in November to remove homesteaded property taxes here in Florida. Huge deal, guys. Huge deal. Why is this a huge deal? Well, because property taxes fund everything here. Remember, we don't have state income tax. So we're talking about HJR House Joint Resolution 203. It's a constitutional amendment that will gradually eliminate all non-school property taxes on homesteaded homes over 10 years. Now, that's what it was. And then late night, they removed the gradual language and they said it's going to be effective 2027. So none of this, hey, you guys got 10 years to figure it out, and starting in 2037, there'll be no non-school, non-public safety homesteaded property taxes. They just said no. So where are we sitting with this? It's gone through the House. Now it's got to go through the Senate. They got to make a 2/3 vote. Yay. And then it will go to ballot in November. And if 60% of the constituents, of the voters of the state of Florida vote for it, that will be a constitutional amendment. And that will eliminate non-school property taxes on homesteads. And then there's carve out for public safety, which are like firefighters and cops. But what does that leave? I mean, property taxes pay for a whole lot here. They pay for roads, they pay for drainage, they pay for parks, they pay for libraries, planning. The Jackson Health System is a beneficiary of this. The Children's Trust, disaster relief, because, you know, FEMA doesn't do a great job down here. So all of these things would just kind of become unfunded.
Listen, I've been giving a lot of thought to this property tax thing. And like you said, property tax is pretty much what makes the world go around, whether it be schools, it be county, it be city. I want to take it in a different direction. I keep hearing the Chamber of Commerce types talking about Larry Page from Google, about Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, about canned billions, what all these big projects they're doing. How much did Larry Page drop from Google on his place in the Grove? What is it, 170 million? What was Mark Zuckerberg?
170.
Yeah, good old Zuck. How much did he drop? 130, 140? Ish. So
It's unsubstantiated. We don't know yet.
Okay, but let's go with Larry Page. Larry Page is 170, right? So we're gonna do some rough math here. We're doing it on. We're gonna do it right on the fly. 170 million times 2%. Times 2%. That's $3.4 million a year in property tax. And even if you homesteaded going forward, you would have, under the current regime, locked it in and only increased a little bit based on inflation. You're giving them a $3.4 million tax break to move to Miami and drop $170 million. Is that what Governor DeSantis, is that what everybody up in these brainiacs up in Tallahassee are thinking? We want Larry Page here. He's going to come here. He's going to supposedly set up businesses for Google. He's not going to do shit. Just like Jeff Bezos. You're going to give Jeff Bezos the pass? What about Wall Street South? What about West Palm Beach and, where Wall Street's South? You're going to give all these guys a pass? What about Mar-a-Lago? What's the valuation of Mar-a-Lago? Why are you giving a pass to all the fat cats? We're dropping $170 million on a home. That doesn't make any sense in the world. 2%. That's what everybody else is paying. Why the hell should they get a discount? They could have bought a whole variety of other things. They could have put the money in bonds. They could have put the money in whatever. They decided to go into real estate. Why? Because if you put it in real estate, you get what are you saving? $3.4 million in property tax if it's eliminated. This is how idiotic this entire process is from my perspective. You move here, you declare a homestead, you get $3.4 million a year of pass on it. And here's the other thing. Why the hell would you ever sell? Why would you sell? If you don't have a property tax pressure where something's beating on you all the time, why the hell would you ever sell? You wouldn't. You would just probably pull some sort of fraud and just say, oh, yeah, I still got it. Maybe you're running out of the side. Maybe you're doing something else out of it. I don't know. This is a disaster. And do not give the fat cats, even though they want to come over the weather, do not give them a pass. And Larry Page doesn't need $3.4 million in tax savings annually, in my opinion.
So I was thinking about this too, Peter. Absolutely right. You are, by the way. I agree with you. But what about all these little municipalities? Let's just take one that's in our backyard. The village of Key Biscayne. It's a village. Doesn't really create anything. Honestly, what do they got? They got nothing. They got property taxes. So what happens in a few years when they're running through their budgets and they realize, hey, we don't have any money, do they get absorbed back in, like, logistically, how does that work? Do they get absorbed back into the county? Is that what that happens? What happens to Coral Springs? What happens to Pinecrest? Pinecrest, I don't think there's a single property tax dollar in its coffers. Now, I do need to point out, guys, throughout Florida, not every home is homesteaded, right? And so we looked it up. 53% of properties in Florida are not homesteaded, right? But that doesn't mean that the lion's share of a lot of these municipalities' monies comes from homesteaded properties. So what I think is going to wind up happening, Peter, the low-hanging fruit here, and after I ruminated about it for a while, it was kind of glaringly obvious. The municipalities, they're just going to double, triple non-homesteaded property taxes. That's what they're going to have to do. So if this is your second home, if you're a snowbird, dude, you got to open up your wallet, because that's the only way these municipalities, the other proposal that they put through, they wanted to up sales tax at 13 or 14%. That'll do wonders for our tourism industry.
Well, listen, if you're a politician and you're worried about your constituents voting for you, so why don't you just do this? Why don't you double or triple or quadruple the property tax on anything over $10 million? Most of your voters aren't going to own a place over $10 million. Hit them with it. And I'm not talking socialism. I'm talking about, how are you going to give somebody $3.4 million annual tax savings on a place that they're declaring as their homestead right now? It doesn't make any sense to me. You should be basically having everybody pay something similar. Pay it, make it be similar. And then you say, well, what about renters? Well, renters, it's going to get passed along to them, because right now it gets passed along to them because of the property tax. So what's going to happen if property taxes are eliminated? And at least for the homestead, but they're increased for the
non-homestead. You bring up a good point. For the non-homesteaded, for the commercial properties, who's going to wind up paying for it? Rents are going to have to go up. Rents will go up. If they levy higher taxes on non-homesteaded properties, you think the landlord's going to eat that? Maybe a little bit, but trickle down, baby.
Well,
same thing that happened with the tariffs. Everything got more expensive. That's what's going to happen.
But according to them, no, the country exporting it is the one that pays. But that's a different story. But a question for you. You mentioned that it's going to be on the ballot this November.
If it gets a 3/5 vote through Senate
this November, with the polling, with the city of Miami going hard Democrat, female, La Gringa, you're going to put that item on this ballot with this type of backlash that's currently underway. Wow, this might be very, very, very interesting. They talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
So, wait, Peter, I'm not. You're confusing me here. Are you a fan of this?
No,
I'm being totally facetious, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But to put it on this ballot, given what's going on in the polling and how it'll be connected and linked to certain individuals, wow. I think they're smoking their own stock up there in Tallahassee.
Maybe. So you're a sell. I'm a sell.
I'll pound the table, flip that damn table over, punch somebody in the mouth. So,
ooh, a lot of red. Let's see if we can turn it green, Peter. Everyone is bullish on Coconut Grove. We got people coming down from Boston, New York, Chicago, and the phones are ringing off the hook, and they say, I want to live in Coconut Grove, Florida. Well, news for you, Coconut Grove is not a municipality. It resides within the city of Miami, so you're sharing city services with 400,000 or 500,000 other people, but it is a nice, rich, bayfront enclave, private schools, shopping, pedestrian streets, or they're working on the pedestrian street thing. But Coconut Grove is a really beautiful place. Peter's going to give you the long hippie history of it. I mean, all the way from the 70s to the mutiny with the cocaine, back to the 90s with the clubs, to sort of like the dead retail era. But now it is hot. We got Larry Page. We talked about him. We got Ken Billions, which, by the way, Peter, did you see? I know you don't do single family, but let me tell you something. I'm going to teach Peter something today. So right next to Ken Billions' his home that he purchased, the old Arch Estate right there next to Vizcaya, right next to the old Sylvester Stallone estate, which is now the Abbas estate. There's a home right there that just went up for sale for $110 million, 70,000 square foot lot. That would be unprecedented. I mean, they might get it. They might freaking get it. But all to say that the Grove is hot, hot, hot. And Peter's going to talk a little bit about what's happening with condos there, because it's interesting.
It's been interesting. So I've been doing tours since December of 2013. I started doing my first condo tours, and at the time the market was going up. So we've covered a bunch. I don't know how many tours I've done. I've done a lot of tours in that time. And we're doing our first tour ever of Coconut Grove. And just so everybody knows, so we're all on the same page, we go from the Rickenbacker Causeway, Eddie Rickenbacker Causeway, all the way west to Lejeune, which is 42nd Avenue. And then we go from Dixie Highway all the way south down to the Bay. And then there's a little part over by Cocoa Walk where the Gables and the Grove gets kind of confused, right by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas's home, right over there. We use a street called Battersea. But basically, we ran the numbers. Daniel, there's more than 170 condo projects with 5,400 units in Coconut Grove.
It's a little tiny space.
We've been grinding it out, and they tend to be quality of life places. So this is not the massive 500-600 unit complex you're going to find in Greater Downtown Miami. So just in going through it and try to understand it and see the different phases. And you know what else is also interesting? About 41% of all the condos are going to be vintage. These are Yeah, they're going to be at least 30 or more.
Well, when you said it yourself, it's quality of life stuff.
It's quality of life, but however, a lot of them, they don't hit the threshold of 3 floors. And as a result, the structural integrity reserve study and the milestone
doesn't
inspection,
apply.
It doesn't apply in the same way. Now, I'm sure the insurance company and a lender might be, really turning the screws on them. But this is such a dynamic, interesting market where, listen, if somebody were to go forward and try to terminate condos in and around here, you probably could make it happen, assuming you don't run into idealistic sellers or owners who simply don't want to sell because you might cut down a tree and you might not recycle. And that's effectively who lives in Coconut Grove. That's how they've been able to sort of maintain the sort of the vibe that they've had since, permanent settlement back in the, 19th century, late 19th century. So it's a very dynamic type of place. You got some new stuff going forward. But one thing I will tell you, looking at the numbers, it seems like over $1 million, the condos are, there's no activity. You're not getting the activity on the resale side. And I took a look at Viva.
Why? Because nobody wants the old vintage stuff?
Well, you're not seeing the same velocity. You're seeing the months of supply start to tick up. The days on the market is starting to tick up versus below. When you're under $1 million, it's a little bit more active. But you're seeing, like, I'm not going to say a freezing out, but that market is sort of, it's showing varying signs. But I'm looking at the broader market. I'm not looking at the sexy product. I want to look at the stuff that's in the gutter. I want to look at like all of it. Now, the sexy stuff is still going to have a real good demand. But when you kind of look at it that way, it kind of balances out, at least from my perspective, the market. And I had no idea what to expect from Coconut Grove. But after spending 10 days going through it, it's starting to become a little bit more obvious that terminations are probably coming, as well as, that quality of life. Will it be under attack, especially if you throw in Live Local? Because if you were to go on Bird Avenue or 27th Avenue, when you go south of Dixie Highway, we could have some game changers starting to occur over there in the Grove. And hopefully it doesn't happen, but that seems to be the writing on the wall.
Well, for anybody who hasn't been watching, we talk a lot about the Transit Station Neighborhood Development Program with the city of Miami, which is like the acronym, guys, is TSND, which is basically the city of Miami's answer to Live Local. That is a tool in the developer toolbox to build more density. All of Coconut Grove, which is the south side of US 1 there on 27th Avenue, is carved out from this. That's interesting one. Interesting too, you mentioned condo terminations. I counted 2 of recent right next to each other, actually, over there on Virginia Street behind the fire station, but they're behind Cocoa Walk. And the first one, 17 million. The second one, 27 million. And these aren't small lots. These are, 40, 50,000 square foot lots. And just to put it into proportion for you guys, the well, which David Martin, Terra's building right there up against 27th Avenue, where Related put up the Grove Towers there. Coco, great little Mexican place there. That's about an 85,000 square foot lot, and he's putting in 190 units. Peter, you want to fact check me on that one?
Let me check while you're speaking. I will check.
I think I ran the math at 190 units, but at 190 units, same zoning, same height restrictions, on 50,000 square feet, you could put like 110 units. So we're talking about, well, back to property taxes. This is what makes the world go round in our little town here, our little provincial seaside town called Miami. When you knock down an old building and you build a new building with luxury product that costs more, that's more money in the government coffers. And so developers donate to commissioners to get these things to happen. And if property taxes don't exist, then that kind of just breaks the whole system. Like, who do the lobbyists become? They're not working for the developers anymore because there's no property taxes.
This is a great point. I mean, this is game-changing type of stuff. You get rid of the property taxes. I mean, they're going to have to hit everybody else a different way. Like during the Great Recession, they came up with this idea of there was like a fire fee in the city of Miami. They imposed it on everybody. There were some lawsuits, and ultimately the judge threw it out. But they'll get creative. They're still going to need the money. Maybe they write more tickets. Maybe they charge you more when you go to file your application to go ahead and build something. They got to come up with the cash somehow, some way. Why not just share it amongst people? And every time I read a poll about do Floridians mind paying property tax, they say, we get it. We know how the money's being spent. What they don't like paying is the insurance. Legislature, stop worrying about the property tax. Deal with the insurance. I know there's a 40% pullback on the premiums this year because of the hurricane season being quiet last year, because of a lot of the condo stuff being dealt with, at least in process. Deal with the insurance. Forget the property taxes. Property tax, you put the money in, you know where it's going. The insurance, you put the money in, it gets moved over to a shell company, and then it disappears. We don't get anything back for our property insurance money. I don't own, so it doesn't matter to me, but I do pay rent.
The lawyers sure do. God, do the lawyers get some out of that. Well, bullish on Coconut Grove, Peter. We were with Andrew last week, Andrew Raskin of Meta Development. He's got some stuff going on in Coconut Grove. He's certainly bullish. Four Seasons is going up. David Martin's got The Well. What else do we have? Arbor, which I don't know if they'll ever get their certificate of occupancy. They're supposedly delivering at some point. Who else? You got multifamily on Grand, supposedly getting about $5 a foot, which is crazy. And you like how I can hit that high note. And who else is building? Who else? I'm forgetting people. You got Alan Morris. Spencer Morris has taken the reins, and he's building the Ziggurat. That's a smaller project, more like a meta development boutique luxury. But they're selling for what? $2,000+ a square foot? Crazy stuff. Would you ever would you have thought that the Grove would have been getting, even 20 years ago, if I told you the Grove, behind Kirk Monroe Park, behind the USPS, that you'd be getting $2,000 a square foot in Coconut Grove? Would you believe me?
It hasn't been stress tested. We need to stress test it. We need a pullback in the economy, see if it actually has staying power. Right now, it's just up.
It's a lifestyle community.
It has not been stress test. I'm telling you. Once there's some pushback, then you're going to know, can it actually stand on its own two legs? That's why the feds had to adopt a policy to stress test all these banks, because of what happened during the Great Recession. This condo development has not been stress tested. That's all I will tell you. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, but if they stress test the Miami condo market, somebody's going to survive. I think the Grove would be a survivor.
Well,
all the submarkets.
I'd go with South Beach before the Grove, because the South Beach is much more free falling than the Grove. The Grove is almost, to me, it almost feels like it's at a peak. Maybe it's maybe it's going to be going along at that point for quite some bit, but South Beach is, it's kind of unraveled from my perspective. So if I wanted a big of a bump, I think South Beach gives you more of a bump. I think when you're buying into the Grove, you're pretty much buying gold.
You're buying at the top.
You're buying at the top, and maybe it'll probably stay firm because you got a bunch of, you got the Ken Billions and Larry Page and all of that. But how do you get to the next level? That's the question. And I just, I'm not sure what it is, because you're in very high altitude type of air up there. So you better have an oxygen tank along. for the journey.
I like that analogy. All right. I don't know where you're at. I'm a buy on the Grove. I'm bullish.
I'm going to be a hold, simply because I think it's probably going to go through some transitions, whether it be through terminations with all these small little projects, or whether or not it's going to get
But
stressed.
terminations in the name of progress. They're not going to be terminating them because they want to build some shitty little building. They're building it because they think they can sell for $2,000 plus a square foot.
Correct, but it's a process.
Right.
So do you begin the terminations now, and then ultimately, when it isn't ready to go to the next level, you're ready. So that's the sort of the only thing. It really feels like it's the Grove is in a very good place. So if you're a Wall Street investor and you had a great 2025, what do you do in 2026? You dump all that stuff from 2025 and you want to go into ones who were the dogs last year, so you can get the bump on the ride up. So that's all I would say.
It's funny you said that. Before we move on to the next topic, got to point out, we talked about him a few weeks ago on the show. I don't know how to pronounce his firm, Tarosi Equities. He bought that office building right there across the street from the Cloisters, right there across the street from the Barnacle, where they got a few tenants, they got the rooftop, they got the Lebanese restaurant on the bottom. He got that in a UCC foreclosure auction and then flipped it in 12 months for like a $30 million profit. What did he do with that cash? He bought on Lincoln Road. There you go. So somebody's listening, Peter. All right, you're holding, I'm buying, and Ricardo Dunin is pivoting in Brickell. Who is Ricardo Dunin? Peter's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you what exactly he's doing. So Ricardo Dunin had announced back in fall of 24 that he was going to build a hotel. Why do we know him as a hotel builder? Because he kind of brought the whole condo hotel thing down here. And he announced that he was going to build the name, marketing guys, come on, the House of Wellness. So I don't know if that's a brand that they're paying a vig to, or they just came up with that brand. It needs a little work, guys. But it was going to be an 843 key hotel. As of late, he's announced we're scrapping the hotel and it's going to be a 656 unit condo. Now we know Dunin and Brickell because he's built Domus and Domus Brickell. I think one of those was an EB5 fundraising candidate. So if you wanted to get a visa, you could put in the $1 million investment and then they'd probably give you a discount on the condo, and then you and your immediate family got a green card. That's that guy. So he's building now the House of Wellness condo. Wellness, 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 wellness. We're all about wellness now. David Martin's got the well in Coconut Grove. They're building paddle condos over there in Brickell, right there on the bay. I mean, it's all about health and wellness and shit. High HOAs, I guess, because if you got a cold plunge, it takes a hell of a lot of money to maintain those things. So there's this whole concept, but the House of Wellness ain't going to be selling for $2,000 a square foot. I think they announced when they launched sales just this week, the entry level is going to be in like the low to mid six figures. So this is like the Well Light model. And by the way, I got to point out that it's in Brickell, but it's west of the Metro Rail. I thought we were calling that West Brickell. I'm confused about the naming now. And then like west of 95, is that technically Little Havana, or is that the new West Brickell? What are you hearing out there on the streets, Peter?
I love all these questions you raise because you're dead on. You're nailing it. I mean, you are nailing it. So kudos to you. So we're Ricardo Dunin, best of, and by the way, I've done consulting for him in the past. He's a developer. He's put up a bunch of stuff all around. He kind of made his name down here because he went over to Coconut Grove and he bought the old Mutiny Hotel. It had been dormant forever and ever and ever. This was the Casablanca. Yeah, this was the Casablanca of Miami cocaine era, this mutiny. He had nothing to do with it, but basically it was a hotel. It was very lucrative back in the day when the cocaine cowboys was really big and happening right there on Bayshore Drive as it turns into the McFarland. So he brought the mutiny. He also brought the site next to it, kind of like on an angle between the women's club and the library. He bought that and he put up the Sonesta. So he had the two, the mutiny shortly thereafter, a book, well, not shortly, probably a good decade afterwards, book comes out called Hotel Scarface.
Great
Hotel
book.
Scarface. Yeah. So Hotel Scarface is based on that mutiny. So he took the original structure, basically built it out, sold them as condo hotels. And then on the Sonesta side, he also had condo hotels. It was a concept that wasn't very common at the time. A lot of people were peddling timeshares. Remember, you buy like an eighth of a place or whatever, and you get to use it. So actually, yeah, there you go. The map is perfect. So if everybody can see, like in the center top, you're going to see like a taller building, and then to the right there'll be a shorter building, and then we got a bunch of grass or like trees near the bottom. So the mutants to the library, right, and then the library and the women's club, or originally it was called the Housekeepers Club, and then they changed it to the women's club. So that's what he put up. That's kind of how he made his name. Late 90s, he put that up. Condo hotel concept wasn't really known, and he was doing this type of stuff. He's not a guy that seeks a lot of attention, but he's got the track record. He's built. He was involved with putting up. He's one of the developers on the Ritz-Carlton over Miami Beach and the old Miami Heart Institute. So the guy knows he knows what's going on, and for him to suddenly pivot from what you're saying, a hotel, to suddenly a condo. That to me suggests he's seeing something, or more importantly, he's going to be hawking these things down in South America to people or individuals who want to park some cash for whatever reason. So that would be my conclusion. But now listen, all this wellness, and Ricardo, this is not a shot at you, but every single person seems to be getting into wellness. It's almost like the wellness play is today's version of the 1970s and 80s when we had these over 55 communities. So if you go on one of these wellness houses, you're basically writing it off as you're an old codger.
Yeah, but you don't have to be fit to live in the wellness community. It's not like you can't buy a condo unless you have a six pack. Like over 55, you have to be, well, shit, almost as old as you. No, I'm giving Peter a hard time.
But here's the bottom line: you go into a wellness place, it means one of two things. One, you're probably old, or two, you probably need to go to rehab, and this was your alternative rather than the court sending you.
The wellness thing is nice. I like the wellness branding.
It's nice. It's nice. But do you buy a condo because it's nice, or do you rent the room because it's nice? You see what I'm saying? Is it enough to get you over the top? I think these guys are taking it too far. They've run out of a storyline or a yarn in order to pitch this stuff. And let's just go with the wellness, because who's going to say, I'm against healthy living? I am against it. Nobody's going to say that. It's a slam dunk. But
So wait, are you saying that like in 10 years or so, we're going to have like a cocaine and heroin themed condo? Like the pendulum's going to swing the other way?
That would, if you remember PMG, they were putting up a project in downtown Miami. Now it's called X. It was going to be called Vice. And they allow short-term rental.
What is the 11 tower? It's connected to a strip club, Peter. Well, I'm sorry, entertainment establishment.
No. They get pissed off when I call it a titty bar or a strip club. They like to be called a cabaret.
You can't say titty on air, Peter. We're going to get fined.
Oh,
again.
Sorry.
Again.
Sorry. But these guys are going overboard with the wellness, and they're also going overboard with the paddle boards. Carlos Rosso, you're putting up all these, and that many people are going to play pickleball. I mean, is pickleball today's version of
fastest growing sport in America?
But is it today's version of shuffleboard? I mean,
highlight.
One thing if it's a novel, it's another thing. To me, it just seems like it's getting overplayed because they're running out of creative ideas. Why? Well, can I suggest something? How about not giving all these things and lowering the maintenance? I think that would probably be much better than coming up with all these, I don't know, crazy ideas and having a high
cockamamie. That's what you wanted to say.
Cockamamie. That's it. You warned me about cursing, so.
So I have a theory. And I think. Well, we talk about all the the STR. That's the acronym, folks, for short-term rental friendly buildings. So people call it BTR, built to rent, STR, but Airbnb friendly. We are globally. We showed somebody a house the other day, and she worked over there at Airbnb. Miami is Airbnb's number one market. Number one market. We're number one. We're always number one. We're the best. We're Miami, obviously. So number one market, but it's a lot of that's attributed to these STR buildings. They have a whole division within Airbnb that is trying to get HOAs to switch their bylaws to allow for Airbnbs because there's just so many of them. And then developers, PMG's built a lot of them, the entire Central Business District, that whole World Center project, those are all short-term friendly. So my thinking, Peter, is, okay, a hotel. I'm not a hotel guy, but it's a business. You need to operate it. And the return on that investment, it takes way longer than the return on the investment of a condo building. You buy the units, you build the units, you sell the units, you hand over the HOA. A hotel, you got to operate, you got to maintain it. There's overhead, there's all of this stuff that you have to do. And now you're competing with all of these buildings, all these units that are about to come online like 5 blocks away, which are effectively little mini hotels. And they're going to be able to compete with you on price. So why build a hotel? Why build it here? I think there's plenty of hotel Airbnb options here. Why not just build more attainably priced condos? I think attainable condos, and this is something that I've talked a lot about on this show, is that there aren't a ton of attainable condos being built, and certainly not in Coconut Grove. And the further west you get out of Brickell, I guess we're still in Brickell. We're still calling this Brickell. Okay. So the further west you get within Brickell, we're west of the tracks here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So I zoomed in here because this is where that the House of Wellness by Ricardo Dunin is going to go. These 3 lots right here, it's about 22,500 square feet. So just a smidge over half an acre. And so it's west of the Metro Rail, right there on the underline. That's why I really like this particular area. I'd rather live here for the value than here for the view. I know that's a comment Peter's going to love. You got the underline, you got 95 access, you got the Metro Rail, you actually have access to public transit. I don't know where it's going to take you, but I really like this area. And because the dirt was cheaper, then these builders are able to build units that they can sell in the mid 6 figures, just like it was in 2014, Peter.
Yeah, well, I mean, for that location, listen, you're close to the Ace Hardware. Got that. You got a Wendy's. You got a gas station. You got a
UPS.
Fargo. You got top-notch retail. McDonald's and CVS. And obviously, I'm being a little bit sarcastic here.
Who doesn't love McDonald's? What do you got against the Ronald?
You see the prices. But listen, at the end of the day, Ricardo has done this before. He's done this for a long, long, long time. If he's making this call and he's making this judgment call, he's seeing something, or he's unlocked some different level. And for him to make this pivot, I would just sort of, I would go with the fact that the guy knows what the hell he's doing. And I'm not doing consulting for him now, but he knows what he's doing. So he's got a solution worked out. But if he is listening or he does see this, I just say, Ricardo, listen, the wellness thing, I think, is way played out. I don't know how well that's going to, it'll look sometime in the future. Why not just lower the fees and cut back the amenities? That's really what everybody wants. They want to be able to go and spend the money wherever it is. They don't need the bells and whistles. They don't need the shiny objects. They don't need the wellness. Give them a place that's solid, it's efficient, and they can afford. And then with the money they're saving on lower maintenance fees, then they can go and do it exactly what they want. And their wellness might be much different than what you're going to provide. And this goes to David Martin with the well. This goes with all of them. Do not impose your will on everybody. Give them lower prices on the maintenance, on the burn, on the carry, and that'll go a long way towards the wellness of the individual unit owner, is what I would say.
So you're a buy.
I'd be, like I always say, like my degenerate horse track buddies say, you bet the horse, you bet the number, you bet the jockey. Ricardo Dunin knows what the hell he's doing, so I'm a buy on him. Not necessarily on the project, not necessarily on the pricing, but if he's going forward with it, he's not a dumb guy. He's got a track record, and I'm just going to assume he knows what the hell he's doing. But I would drop the wellness angle. I think that is.
I don't like the name either, but I like what he's done. I'm buying with you, Peter. All right. I don't know if this is my first or second favorite of the rundown names, but MIA has been MIA at MIA. And those are all acronyms. Are those homonyms? That was back in first grade. So MIA, Miami, has been missing in action at Miami International Airport. If you have traveled at the airport, through the airport, at any given time over the last several years, you might have noticed that you have to walk a lot. They have the people movers, which are like those conveyor belts for pedestrians. They're broken most of the time. They even have now, and I'm sure the wheelchair pusher union is really happy about this. Peter, they have automated wheelchair services. So like it's like a little wheelchair, you sit in it and it takes you to your gate. Fascinating. The train back online, supposedly. I haven't been there in a minute. And TSA, pre-check and global entry may or may not be open right now because of the partial government shutdown. But somebody confirm or deny that for me. Why am I bringing this up today? Well, because American Airlines are monopoly god of airlines. We got 3 in the country. American Airlines is ours. Is it good? Is it bad? It just is, guys. It is. They've committed to putting $1 billion, $1 billion with a B dollars, into the renovation of their terminal. And that's pales in comparison to the $9 billion that the county has committed to renovate the airport, which I think is fantastic. What I don't think is fantastic, actually what I laugh at, is the proposed timeline for completion. So they say that they're going to start this in 2027 and be finished by 2029, a $9 billion project. I'm sorry, summer of 2030. Give them another year. So 3 years for a $9 billion project? County commission. Who allowed this press release? Don't lie. Come on. They could have even built this one bridge, and it's going to take them 10 years by the time the whole freaking thing's finished. And that wasn't $9 billion. That didn't need federal FAA approvals, and you got lights and switches and all this crap. I will say, what they have been able to build quickly, if anybody's driven down Lejeune lately, is Freedom Park. That is the single fastest built structure I have ever seen in my 36 years, holy shit, years of life here in Miami. Peter, they're going to play a soccer match there April 6th. It's going to be
we
open.
shall see.
Well, I mean, supposedly.
The only thing I can tell you is I went to one of the first matches when Messi was here. I was in the supporters club for Inter Miami.
Up in Fort Lauderdale, because that's where it was.
Yeah. And if that's any idea of what it's going to be, it was a complete shit show. They had everything online. You couldn't pay for any services with cash. You had to use your phone. Their Wi-Fi wasn't equipped in order to handle it. So you go and you get some beers, you get something to eat.
Yeah, but that's growing pains. I mean, as much as I want to bash these guys, you can't judge them on their first day.
I'm not judging them on that. I'm just saying the product on the field and the decisions being made in the boardroom in terms of players, I salute them. But the technical part, the Tim Cook stuff, the stuff where you got to get in there and grind it. I've been to a lot of Inter Miami matches, and let me tell you, what's on the field versus off the field, completely different. Maybe it'll be a little bit different story here, but when a stadium opens, it reminds you of Miami Marlins Stadium. Remember when that thing opened? They had a little bit of issues there as well, but at least.
By the way, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, Miami Marlins Stadium, people go, people don't go. Well, most people don't go. We're going to have the Caribbean Classic, which is the only time they really ever fill up that baseball stadium. It has, between our major sports team, we got the Heat, we got the Dolphins, we got the Marlins, we got the Panthers, but they're over there. It has the best food. Nobody goes to eat it, but it has the best food. Prove me wrong in the comments below. We got to work on our engagement. Come on, guys. Get angry. Miami Marlins Ballpark has the best food in professional sports in the city.
I hit the La Familia section, so I get the $3 and $5 stuff. So I don't know. I don't tend to venture off beyond the $5.
They have a La Familia section. You go to the Heat and you get 3 chicken tenders for $17. I mean, the chickens really work out. They're like this big, but I mean, it's chicken fingers. Come on, you can do better than that. You get like fish tacos at Marlins Ballpark. You get pan con bistecs at Marlins Ballpark. Like it's cool. It's not just U.S. Foods garbage coming off of a truck and they throw it into the fryer. But we're getting detracted. I brought this up to talk about MIA because Peter, I brought it to the rundown because you've been talking about the passenger traffic coming down at MIA, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I'm still waiting to see what the international traffic is like. I saw some reference to it, but didn't really dig into the real details. That's something I'm going to focus on. I want to get into the passenger traffic, but in the first half of the year, international passenger traffic was down. Why is that important? Because a lot of people who come here from abroad, they spend the money, and ultimately a lot of them, not a lot of them, but some of them end up being condo buyers. And there was that realtor report that said more than half of all pre-construction condo buyers are coming from abroad, with a high concentration coming from Latin America. So if you see international passenger traffic down at Miami International Airport, which is primarily where many of them fly into because of American Airlines, because they have the super concourse, because they have all of the routes that they picked up from, what was it, Pan Am or Eastern Airlines, that they picked up through an acquisition or whatever the case was. They basically dominate Latin America, the Caribbean. American Airlines does. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but you basically, it's a company town. That's all you can fly if you're going to many of these places competitively, unless you go up to Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, I'm very interested in the MII numbers. Getting it done by 2030. I think there was a typo. That should have been 2040. There's no way in hell, based on previous experience. Yeah, they're not getting it done by 2030. I mean, listen, not happening under any circumstance will be done. And it will be very joyful experience going to the airport and going through the whole process of the construction.
Well, now you got to go past this massive commercial real estate development on the east side of Lejeune. You thought the traffic going up there with everybody commuting home to Hialeah trying to get to Okeechobee was bad as it is? Oh, brother.
Can you pull up the map really quick, Daniel? Do you have that capability to pull up Freedom Park?
Do I have the capability? Come on, Peter. This is episode 41. What do you think this is? Last June? All right, here we go. We're flying. This is a construction site, guys. And there we go. Up here, Freedom Park. Guys, it doesn't look like this. I don't know when this image was taken. This was taken, I don't know, at some point. We are way past this. I mean, they already have the structure of the Freedom Park soccer stadium up. They got garages up and down the left side of this thing. It's wild. But I'm sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
Okay, but if you could go back to that, remember, the city of Miami is going to be moving City Hall here, just to the south. Stadium's up at the top. I think to the south, it's going to be City Hall.
Are they moving all of City Hall there, or just like certain administrative offices?
No, I think all of it. They're also moving the park.
Wait, they're moving it out of the marina? What a loss.
Yeah, and I think they're going to take it out for redevelopment. That's what they're talking about. We'll have to see. But also, too, they're going to be vacating the administrative building on the north bank of the river. So that's all going to be going in and around where you guys see the baseball diamonds. But pay attention to this. Now, that is the stadium, and you, in theory, can take the Metro Rail, because the Metro Rail drops off right over there where you have the MIC, the Miami Intermodal Center. So in theory, you're going to be able to go from, right? Yeah. So in theory, you can walk from there, take the train, because I don't have a car, I haven't had one since 2013. Take the train, you cross over. They're supposed to have a bridge. Daniel, they haven't started the bridge yet. How are you going to take the Metro Rail? How are you going to take the Tri-Rail? Tri-Rail dumps you off there. So does Flix Bus. So you can go to Key West. You can go to up north. How are you going to get across?
Canoe. You kayak. Paddleboard? I don't know. I don't know any other movements.
Okay, so the only point I'm making is there's no way it's going to be ready for April. Now, if you're telling me April,
no, they're going to play the game. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy to get to, or operationally it's going to be up to snuff by any means. But I mean,
why don't they call it a soft opening? Do not call it a grand opening, because that thing's going to be a disaster. I'm just telling you. It's going to be a disaster. Things don't always go as planned. Go with a soft opening. Give people like a free parking or something, because otherwise people can be bitching and moaning about every single aspect of this. Well, okay, and let's take it one step further, just to piss on everybody's parade on a Friday. Daniel, you see that stadium? Can you zoom in on the stadium a little bit more? Okay, now zoom out a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, stop. Now go to your left. Go west. What do we see to our left? Oh, wow. What's that? Keep going.
Airplanes.
Oh, so when they're taking off. Oh, interesting. That's going to make for great ambiance at Freedom Park, no? It's going to be like the old Shea Stadium in New York, where people would go there and there's always planes flying over. It's going to be like being on Brickell Avenue when all the planes are coming in. Everybody's out on their balcony or inside bitching, calling their commissioner saying, what the hell? Why are the planes flying over a place? Dude, you know how loud this is going to be? Look at that. Look at the runways. Look.
Well, it's got to be able to drown out all the fans that are going to the soccer games. All the fans. There's going to be so many fans, Peter.
And they're going to be wet.
This movie before.
They got to swim across the little canal because they haven't built the damn bridge. How the hell are you gonna? What are they? They're gonna put up like a pop up bridge, like kind of like the army comes in when they do a landing. They have these this, what do you want to call it? Portable bridges.
We got a comment, Peter. We got a comment, and Rico says no fireworks show. He's absolutely right. Can't do fireworks at a stadium next to the airport.
Brilliant. 100%. That's brilliant. Brilliant.
Thanks,
Dude,
Rico.
This is going to be a shit show. There's no question. And I don't get me wrong, it's going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. But if you go there and you're paying top dollar, I think at Inter Miami, the match is up in Fort Lauderdale. It's like $70 to park. You imagine going here and dropping $70
to park?
The park. And then when it rains, because it always rains during the season, everything's puddled. So you got this nice car, you're dropping $70 to park. It starts pissing down rain. You got to walk through these puddles to get in. Your car, you got to go out for a car wash if it doesn't rain enough, because you're going to have mud and stuff on the side. Dude, this thing is going to be a disaster.
All right. Well, this
I'm a buy.
And you know what?
I am a buy.
You're a buy on MIA's been MIA at MIA?
No. I'm a sell on MIA, but I'm a buy in that stadium, because this hopefully will replace the loss and the change of the Miami City Commission. All of the individuals we lost with the recent elections, now that we're going towards respectability.
We lost them. I'm really upset about the changing of that guard, by the way. I really like the status quo.
This might be the new white elephant, the new situation that everybody gets to bitch and moan about. This might be the only in Miami subject. You'll see reels about all the crazy stuff that's going to happen there. I'm certain of that.
So MIA's been MIA at MIA. You're buy, you're selling.
No,
I'm sell.
I'm selling that.
Well, I'm buying that they've been MIA.
I'm buying their fact they're MIA, but delivered by 2030, no way in hell.
No way in hell. No way in hell. Guys, I tried to keep us honest with time. We went 2 minutes over, but what the heck?
Daniel,
can I do? Oh, please.
Can I say one thing?
Say two things.
Okay, so all right, so there's two ways you always know where we're in winter in South Florida, and I just want to point this out to people. This is something I've seen over the course of 30-something years in South Florida. One is when they always write an article about the turkey vultures, these vultures that fly down from Hinckley, Ohio. The only reason I know, because I've read it for years and years and years, they come down, then you know it's winter. When the vultures head back, then you know the winter is over. So that's one little tidbit. So I've seen that story, but I just saw the second story I always see every year. And you know what that was?
Tell me.
The police just busted a cockfighting ring. You always get one cockfighting ring bust going on in Miami every single year, and then you know the year is complete. So I just wanted to let everybody know we've continued on with the trend, and I'm a little bit disappointed we did not have that on today's Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, because it is part of the whole folklore of what this is all about. But I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. And I say that tongue in cheek, but it's funny how some of the stuff is very predictable. It just goes on and on and on. And that's why I thought I should bring it to everybody's attention. And it's near the end of the show.
There was one last question I needed to ask. We had somebody wanted me to bring it up to you because you were making the comments about the best panko steak in town, best croqueta in town. Then I gotta cut it. Best croqueta in town. Yeah. Tell me. Tell him, Pete.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit like this.
I know.
So
it's okay. It all goes into the rubric.
Probably La Carreta. For me.
You heard it. I like Isla Canarias, but that was years ago. And then it's a long ride. And then there was another one that I forget the name of, and it was down Cayocho, actually right across the street from my favorite panko steak place, right there on like 59th at Mago de las Fritas. There was a place across the street. It's since closed. I forgot what the name is. I got to think about it. I put you on the spot, and I didn't have an answer for you. But in any case, folks, that's episode 41 of Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. We'll be seeing you next week. We got some guests bubbling. Everybody saw how much fun Mr. Andrew Raskin had last week, and they called us and they said, hey, Peter, Daniel, we want to be on the show. Are they developers? Are they regular folk? Maybe it's a dentist, but everybody has something to say about real estate down here in Miami. Have a good one, guys.
Oh, yeah. Miami.